Hey, welcome to another episode of the Fit Growth Machine podcast. I'm Brian Roisentul, your host, and today I'm going to interview Gabrielle San Nicola. She has worked in the commerce space for more than 5 years on both the agency and platform sides. That's very interesting. She now heads up East Coast and EMEA partnerships for Okendo, a customer intelligence solution built for brands. And we are going to discuss about that in a sec. But before doing that, let me tell you that this episode is brought to you by BSR Digital. I mean, we get it. Customer acquisition costs are going up. There's lack of tracking. Attribution is driving you nuts, right? And audience sizes are getting smaller and smaller after the iOS 13 update. If that wasn't enough, there are other factors such as the recession and supply chain issues, making it harder than ever to grow your e-commerce brand. That's why we need to understand that it's really important to level up the marketing and design a solid strategy, as what used to work doesn't anymore. Here at BSR Digital, we have been helping countless e-commerce brands that wanted to scale their business to a next level through paid ads and email marketing for over a decade. So if you want to learn more about us, you can visit bsrdigital.com, or you can also email us at hello@bsrdigital.com. Now, as promised, I have Gabrielle here with me. Hey, Gabrielle, thanks for being on the show.
And thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to being here today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So I know you have a pretty interesting story. So why don't you start there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my life as a founder. I had a couple of my own companies while I was in college, and then I fell into the marketing world. And I've been working with marketing agencies, kind of focused on direct to consumer brands for past 5 or 6 years at this point. Focusing on business development and partnerships. And now at this point, I have made the shift over from the agency side onto the tech side. And I've been working with Okendo for almost a year at this point.
Wow, I mean, working in agencies, it's tough, right? There's a lot of everything is for yesterday. It's like working with many accounts at the same time. It's crazy, right?
It's a lot. It's very fast, and you're always interfacing with a ton of different brands. It's a really cool puzzle, right? To be able to meet a brand and try to figure out what exactly you can put together to make them more successful or drive more revenue or achieve their goals. So it was always a fun puzzle to work with.
Awesome. So now Okendo, right? So, we've been discussing really, I mean, pretty often on the podcast what brands should be doing according to what they say and what we see here at the agency and talking to them as well in 2023, right? And if we split the conversation in two, let's say the acquisition and retention, as I said in the intro, acquisition is not, I mean, customer acquisition is not getting easier, right? The costs are going up, although CPMs or cost per thousand impressions are going down. It's not easier than before to get customers. So
Yeah.
we talk about, I mean, do you agree? Do you see the same?
Yeah, advertising costs have definitely risen, and especially with recent changes to privacy laws with GDPR, CCPA, etc. It's very, very hard to get reliable information from any of these platforms. So it has thrown a wrench into what we knew paid advertising to be, which was effectively a channel that printed money at some point, but now it's very murky. Attribution is hard, and everybody wants to fight for that last bit of attribution. So it really does get to be very complicated.
Yeah, that takes us to the other side of the equation, which is the retention, right? So that means that once people come through the door, we need to make the most out of their experience. We need to, even before they buy, right? When they go to your website, we need to have your website optimized. And then when after they buy, we need to keep them engaged so they come back for more and increase the lifetime value. But I want to stop right there in the middle and talk about the importance of social proof because it's key for someone to make a decision uh, of buying something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Social proof is essential. I mean, 99.9% of customers read product reviews before making a purchase. Um, And what I think is very interesting is that there's more than 57% of shoppers who will read reviews while shopping in a brick and mortar store to assess like a potential purchase, right? Like I'll go into Whole Foods and I'll be completely overwhelmed, or Sephora. So then I'll go on my phone, I'll look at the brands that I have in my hand and I'll say, all right, what's the better coconut water for me to have today? So reviews and that social proof are absolutely essential. It does not matter if you're not sold in stores or you're only sold in stores. You need to make sure that your customers can find good things about you. Otherwise, you're basically just another one of the many companies.
Yeah. And although reviews have been, with us for a while, many brands don't know how to really leverage them, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you have seen over the years? I don't know, any cases in which brands weren't actually showcasing them where they should, or not showing them even on the website for some reason?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there even something where it's as simple as the brand might be collecting reviews, but they're not displaying user-generated content, right? Like you not only do you need to read about the product, but I want to see what it looks like, right? I don't normally buy yellow dresses, so I need to see what it could look like on my skin tone or just what it looks like in real life. So there are definitely a couple ways that you can improve the display. Definitely make sure to be displaying user-generated content and that those text reviews. And that user-generated content can be a video, it can be a photo or an image. Any kind of multimedia will be really helpful there to actually show the product in real life. Um, and then also to be able to like highlight key attributes, not only about the product, but also about your customer. So for example, if I'm buying a skin serum, I definitely want to understand as a customer, does this serum take on? Is it heavy? Is it light? But as the brand, you should also be understanding like what are my attributes, right? Like what color skin do I have? What color eyes do I have? So that way, when you go to personalize your messaging, you can say, hey, blue eyes, we have an eyeliner that's going to make them pop, right? So there's a lot that you can do to make sure that not only your messaging is correct, but when I, as a potential customer, go through onto your website to see someone who works out like me, then maybe I'll feel more confident in making the purchase of $100 pair of yoga pants, because I can trust that it can hold up to like a heavy weightlifting day, for example.
Okay, so you can imagine I have a lot of questions for you. So I'll be easy on you. Don't worry. I will slowly and one question at a time, but it's hard because it's a topic I'm really passionate about. So the number one question I have is, where should people, in this case, where should brands place their reviews for maximizing their impact or for leveraging them the most?
You definitely should have your reviews on all of your product pages. If you, for example, have a bundle product, so you have a collection of dark chocolate and light chocolate, you have the ability with some platforms to bundle your reviews as well. So that way it doesn't seem as if you have no reviews for this product. You can then tie in your milk and your dark chocolate reviews. So that way it seems populated. Um, there are also some big recommendations to put reviews kind of all over your site, right? On your homepage, you could have a little badge that says over 50,000 five-star reviews or loved by this many customers or what have you. That social proof really should be splattered across every instance of the buying journey. So that way your customer feels confident in that purchase.
Is there a minimum of reviews they need to have in order to make an impact? Of course, the more the merrier, but you just said, for example, and I know it was an example, 50,000 reviews, but many e-commerce brand listening or watching this video might say, I don't have 50,000. Should I hide my reviews or not?
Yeah, I definitely recommend showing as many reviews as possible. And on that note as well, I also recommend displaying some of the negative reviews that you get as well. The benefit with good reviews is that you have a happy and delighted customer. But with a negative review, you have the ability to not only potentially turn around a negative customer experience, but also to show like greater customer service to any prospective buyers. So with that, I would say there's no number that's too low. And there are ways to incentivize for additional reviews to be created. You could reward with coupons or loyalty points or something similar. And so there are a couple ways that you can look to increase your review generation rate. But with that, also do recommend posting both the negative and the positive, so that way you could show that you deliver that ultimate
Yeah,
experience.
and also it looks legit because it is, right? Because you show the good and the bad, and not only the good. If I go to a website and I see all 5-star reviews, it's either one of two things. They are great and nobody has had a bad experience, which it happens, you know.
Right? Yeah,
Uh,
it is.
or they are not real reviews or whatever, right? So in this case, it's it's good to show a small percentage. I mean, it's good to have a small percentage of bad reviews anyway, and that's something we have discussed previously as well. So we are aligned. Um, in terms of the suggested formats for a review, you mentioned something visual, like uh, the scene in this case in the example of the dress, the yellow dress. It's like, oh, I wanna see if the dress looks good in someone with my skin tone and my eyes and all the stuff. So are you saying that they they should be text plus image or videos?
I would say if possible, the ultimate goal is to get that user generated content as well as that text review. And with Okendo specifically, like you can then push your reviews into Meta, into your Facebook ads, so that way you can create a lookalike campaign. So quite literally, anybody who looks like that consumer can then just have that ad served to them, and then that person shops like them, looks like them, eats like them, however. And then you're able to kind of reach that audience as well. So that's definitely a really helpful thing. But text reviews are great. That's a fantastic place to start. But I would definitely look to generate more like additional collateral.
Right. And for those brands, I mean, for all brands, but mainly for those who don't have a lot of reviews, what could you recommend they should do to collect more of them? What actions, what channels they should use, how often to collect
Yeah,
them?
yeah. So there are a couple things that go to increase your review generation rate. Number one is pretty simple, but it's effectively looking at the lifespan of this product. So for example, if we're a skincare brand and I've just made a purchase for like a skin peeling solution, you're going to want to make sure that you have that waiting period long enough so you're not asking me for a review as I look like a snake shedding my skin. Because that, first of all, won't be that'll be a little questionable user generated content. But at that point, you haven't given the product enough time to actually sit with that consumer. So making sure that your review request sequences are timed accurately. This also goes for like pre-launch products, for example, or back order products. Like make sure that your review platform can sustain the ability to like hold out your review request orders until it's been fulfilled rather than when an order has been created. Because if I ordered a pre-launch iPhone right now, I'm not going to get it
Yeah.
until end September. But if that normal review cadence is plus 30 days, that's already a pretty big miss. So that's a first recommendation. I would also recommend to vary your channels. If you send out an email review request, that's fantastic. If you have their phone numbers, put an if this then that tree, and kind of, if somebody doesn't respond to your email, try to approach them on SMS or on that channel, so that way You can meet them where they are, because we find that more than 85% of reviews are coming from mobile. So if you're able to directly email someone, that also might help to increase that review generation rate.
That's great. So reviews are a way of, besides, using them for social proof, are a way for the brand to know more about what customers value the most, how they say things, I mean, the terms they use, so we can level up the marketing and serve them best, what they don't value, what they like, what they hate, etc. Right? But there are other ways to learn more about what they want, what they don't want. And a buzzword that has been used in the last few years was or is zero-party data, right? Zero-party data, for those who don't know about it, is mainly to gather data from your let's say visitors, users, customers, whoever, which they explicitly enter in a survey, a quiz, or anywhere, but they tell you the answer to what you ask them about. In this case, what do you have at Okendo to support that?
Yeah, so Okendo in September released a platform called Okendo Connect. It's a complementary tool to our tried and true Okendo reviews tool. And Connect it's a zero-party data tool. It's really a customer intelligence tool that will allow brands to kind of collect continuous in-moment feedback at all points in the buying journey. Right. So this isn't just a marketing attribution survey. This isn't just an abandoned cart survey. This can transcend into your social channels, where you put a shareable link in your TikTok bio, for example. You ask for marketing opt-in, phone number, and favorite color, and then you have a marketing ready subscriber rather than just a TikTok follower. Or you're able to ask like profile completion questions. So maybe I let you know that I had blonde hair in my last review, and I am on the site. You ask me for my eye color. That will go and then update in that profile, so that way you have some additional information on me. Now you have two key points of info on this consumer that you can then segment out accordingly.
Yeah, I personally think that surveys are great, but many people don't know in general how to ask questions or what questions to ask to get the answer that they are looking for. So do you have any tips for them? On how to create an effective survey?
Yeah, definitely. Well, shameless plug here. Okendo Connect has hundreds of pre-written survey questions and different like attribute data. So a lot of that should already be put together. And this ranges from like customer experience, again, to abandoned cart, to market research, and really kind of spans everything. But otherwise, if there's a survey that doesn't exist within Okendo or whatever platform you're using, I would recommend working backwards, right? Like the problem is that we see that people are abandoning their carts often. So with that, then you kind of back out and you're like, okay, what can I ask that will get me an answer that will like be helpful and actionable? So I would work backwards based on whatever you're trying to address.
Okay. So
So
is a survey similar to a quiz? What are the differences for those listening or watching?
yeah, so a survey I would say is something that's meant to collect consumer data in like a quick way. A quiz, I would say, is more focused on like perhaps like a product finder, right? If you submit all of these pieces of information, then we will give you an answer, compared to a survey, which collects like actionable pieces of information. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, I just wanted it to be clear for the audience. And I believe that everyone should be using surveys in many touch points, because the data we used to have is lost. Plus, we need to learn more, to listen more, to ask more, and to learn more from our customers to actually know how to serve them better. And this is as good a chance as any for doing that, right? So it's pretty important that you do that. But no tool can survive, let's say, as an island. We need to be integrated with the other tools that we use, in this case, as e-commerce brands, right? So
Okay.
what about Okendo? What do you guys, I mean, do you integrate with other important tools for e-commerce brands?
Yeah, that's a great question and a really good point. I think it's hard when pieces of technology don't speak well to each other, especially because you pay pretty high fees and they don't accomplish what you need. Especially in this time, you want to be a little closer with your budget. So yeah, Okendo does have that ability. Um, with uh, with that as well, we're able to kind of make sure that we integrate with more than 50 or some odd different tech platforms, from Facebook and Meta, as mentioned earlier, where we can push our ratings and reviews into lookalike audiences, to being Klaviyo's deepest review integration on the market, where you can unlock all of Klaviyo's features, from A/B testing to adding in your styled ratings into emails and being able to send your review request emails from email and SMS. We work with a wide variety of your favorite tried and true ecom platforms, but it is more than 50. So we do really make sure that all of the data that's collected within Okendo can be ported into, like, your Klaviyo customer data profiles, for example, which allows you to then action on that review and that survey data that comes from your customers.
That's awesome. This was very interesting and I think pretty relevant for today's, for what's going on nowadays in the space, right? So for everyone listening or watching, I hope you have, yeah, that you took some, golden nuggets and you took notes, because this is actually something pretty important for any D2C brand, any commerce brand, or any brand, I would say, to collect reviews. And I hope that you have enjoyed the episode. But before we go, I wanted to tell you that in 2022, we put together a list of books with the ones that the guests mentioned. And I actually do it for me. I'm selfish, I know, because I love to read things different from the ones I read every day. So I want to get out of that comfort zone and get some great ideas from the guests, but I put it out there for the audience, so they can read something different and relevant in this space too. So do you have any book to recommend to the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually just finished Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. It's a very interesting read. It basically takes a look at, like, the science of first impressions, because we live in a world that's like, it kind of assumes that the quality of a decision is correlated to the amount of time that you, like, agonize over it. But it's pretty interesting to see that, like, decisions that are made very quickly can be just as good as something that's made, like, consciously and diligently. So it's a cool read.
Awesome. Yeah, I believe that last year there was another book by the same author in the list.
Okay.
So I'll make sure to check it out, as I told you offline. So that's great. Where can people go to learn more about you and Okendo?
Yeah, so our website is okendo.io. I'm happy to connect with anybody on LinkedIn. I have a relatively complicated name, but I'll also share my email, which is gabrielle.sanicola@okendo.io. I'm always happy to connect with a brand, but otherwise, if you go to the site and you're interested in chatting with us, feel free to let them know that you came via the podcast, and we'll be able to take great care of you.
That's awesome. By the way, my last name is more complicated to pronounce than yours, so you're safe. Don't worry. So
Perfect.
anyway, had a great time. This was super fun for me, and you mentioned a lot of valuable insights for the audience. So I appreciate your time and coming to the show. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. This was great.